Some sci-fi movies aim for greatness, but in the 1,970 seconds, plenty stumbled straight into glorious disaster. The costumes looked borrowed from a disco thrift shop, the effects were more cardboard than cosmic, and the acting? Let's just say it often belonged on late-night comedy, not cinema. Yet somehow, these misfires became unforgettable. Why do some of the strangest, most poorly made films linger in our memory far longer than polished hits? Stick around, things are about to get wonderfully bizarre. Message from Space 1978. You think Star Wars ripoffs were cheap cash grabs? Message from Space might be the crown jewel of shameless imitation, and that's exactly why it's so much fun. Directed by Kinji Fukasaku, the film takes the basic DNA of George Lucas's galactic opera and dials it up with outrageous Japanese flair. Instead of lightsabers, we get glowing walnuts that choose their heroes. Instead of sleek interstellar battleships, the skies are filled with plastic models that look like they were built from toy kits. The story? A group of misfits, including Sunny Chiba, a rogue princess, and a band of reluctant adventurers, must fight back against an evil empire. Yes, it's beat for beat familiar, but the film dresses everything up in neon costumes, melodramatic speeches, and a soundtrack that feels like it was borrowed from a superhero cartoon. Audiences at the time weren't impressed. Critics rolled their eyes and called it cheap imitation. But here's the thing. Message from Space is so overloaded with camp that it becomes irresistible. Watching Chiba deliver dead serious lines while holding a glowing walnut is pure cinema gold. And the flying ships, despite their obvious model kit construction, have a retro charm that's hard not to smile at. Today, the film has a cult following precisely because of its flaws. It doesn't just imitate Star Wars, it transforms it into something flamboyant and uniquely Japanese. This is a movie that shows us how even misfires can become gems when viewed through the lens of campy nostalgia. It's bad, it's great, and it's unforgettable. Star Crash 1978. If you've ever wondered what Star Wars would look like if reimagined by Italian filmmakers with a taste for pulp, Star Crash is your answer. Directed by Luigi Cozzi, the film throws every sci-fi cliché into a blender and serves it up with reckless confidence. The result is a dizzying, colorful, and often laugh-out-loud misfire that somehow works as a spectacle. At the center is Caroline Munro as Stella Star, a space outlaw who wears outfits better suited for a disco runway than a space battle. Her partner, Acton, wields glowing powers that appear and disappear whenever the plot demands. Then there's David Hasselhoff, yes, the future Baywatch star, swinging around a light sword with boyish enthusiasm. And overseeing all of this chaos is Christopher Plummer, who reportedly shot his scenes in a couple of days but delivers his lines with Shakespearean weight, as if the fate of the galaxy truly depended on it. The special effects are endearingly bad. Space battles look like fireworks taped to fishing line. Robots walk stiffly in shiny costumes, and the stop-motion monsters are straight out of a Saturday morning show. But here's the thing. It's never boring. The movie is a roller coaster of strange set pieces. Amazon warriors, giant robots, a prison planet, and even a climactic battle where an entire starship rams into another like a battering ram. Critics panned it, of course. But cult audiences embraced its sheer audacity. Star Crash doesn't just lean into its flaws, it flaunts them. It's messy, nonsensical, and utterly fearless in its attempt to entertain. Watching it today feels like stepping into an alternate universe where imagination mattered more than logic. Star Crash is proof that cinema doesn't have to be polished to be memorable. Sometimes, being so bad it's great is what guarantees a movie's immortality. Laser Blast 1978. Some movies are so baffling you can't believe they ever made it past the editing room. Laser Blast is one of them. Picture this. A teenage outcast named Billy stumbles upon a strange alien device in the desert. Strap it to your arm, and suddenly, you've got unstoppable cosmic firepower. Sounds like the setup for an action-packed sci-fi adventure, right? Wrong. What unfolds is a bizarre mix of clunky effects, wooden acting, and a story that collapses under its own nonsense. The aliens, created with stop motion, look like they wandered in from a completely different movie, like a lost Harryhausen project gone terribly wrong. They pop in and out of the plot with no rhyme or reason, leaving Billy to stumble around angrily blasting anything in sight. His transformation into a lizard-faced creature of rage is played with all the subtlety of a high school stage play, and somehow, That's exactly what makes it great. Critics laughed the film off the screen, but Laser Blast gained legendary status for its sheer weirdness. It even landed a spot on Mystery Science Theater 3000, where its oddball dialogue and clumsy pacing became prime material for mockery. Watching Laser Blast is less about following a story and more about marveling at how every single creative decision went sideways. And yet, there's charm buried under the chaos. The rough stop motion, the awkward teenage angst, the ridiculous ending where aliens swoop back in to clean up their mess, it all blends into a glorious soup of camp. Laser Blast may not be good in the traditional sense, but it's unforgettable, and that's why it still lives on in late-night cult circles. Battle Beyond the Sun, 1970. Here's one for the books. A Soviet space epic turned into an American drive-in oddity. Originally made in the USSR as Nebo Zoviot, the movie was a serious Cold War drama about a space race to Mars. Enter Roger Corman, the king of B-movies, who bought the rights and decided to spice it up for U.S. audiences. His solution? Replace the political undertones with wobbly new footage of rubbery space monsters battling each other. The result is surreal. You can feel the clash between the serious Soviet original and the laughably cheap American inserts. One moment, astronauts are delivering earnest speeches about the future of humanity. The next, a toothy blob with tentacles is flailing around like a puppet from a children's show gone wrong. The tonal whiplash is part of what makes Battle Beyond the Sun such a delightfully strange viewing experience. The film became infamous because Corman's edits essentially erased the political themes, replacing them with pure pulp. It's a fascinating artifact of the era, an earnest attempt at prestige sci-fi hijacked into late-night schlock for drive-ins. Is it good? Not really, but it's a window into how cultural products can be reshaped, rebranded, and sometimes ruined for the sake of quick entertainment. Watching it today is like looking at two movies stitched together with duct tape, one serious, one silly, neither fully working. And yet, that very messiness is why it remains a so bad it's great treasure. Invasion of the Blood Farmers, 1972. Some titles tell you everything you need to know, and Invasion of the Blood Farmers is one of them. Shot on weekends in rural New York, this micro-budget oddity follows a group of farmers who are secretly druids, harvesting blood to revive their ancient queen. Yes, druids. Yes, farmers. And yes, it's as absurd as it sounds. The production values are hilariously low. Sets look like someone's backyard. Costumes seem borrowed from a local thrift store. The rituals are little more than extras waving their arms while chanting lines that barely make sense. Add in dialogue delivered with the stiffness of a high school play, and you've got a recipe for unintentional comedy. But here's the thing. The sheer earnestness of it makes it impossible to hate. The filmmakers clearly believed they were crafting something spooky and otherworldly. Instead, they gave us one of the most bizarre blends of horror and sci-fi ever attempted. For cult fans, Invasion of the Blood Farmers represents the magic of low-budget filmmaking at its most unfiltered. No studio executives, no focus groups, just a small team with a camera, a wild idea, and zero sense of restraint. The result is a movie that stumbles from scene to scene, yet somehow entertains because of its very clumsiness. It's not polished, and it's definitely not scary, but it embodies that special brand of 1970 seconds sci-fi horror weirdness that keeps people coming back. Invasion of the Blood Farmers is a reminder that sometimes passion projects, no matter how misguided, can carve out their own space in cult history. The Shape of Things to Come, 1979. If you thought Canada couldn't out-weird Hollywood, The Shape of Things to Come is here to prove otherwise. Inspired in name only by H.G. Wells's book, this movie took a classic title and turned it into a cardboard carnival of awkward robots, laughable effects, and dialogue that plays like it was written during a coffee break. The plot follows a rebellion against an evil tyrant played by none other than Jack Palance. Now, Palance was a powerhouse actor, but here he seems to drift between mumbling boredom and theatrical shouting, as if he wasn't sure whether to cash the paycheck or just have fun. Barry Morse co-stars, trying valiantly to bring gravitas, but it's tough to look serious when you're acting opposite a shiny robot that looks like a vacuum cleaner in a tin suit. The sets? Imagine spray-painted plywood and tinfoil glued together into futuristic control panels. The costumes scream thrift store chic. And the space battles? Well, Let's just say fireworks taped to model kits never looked so underwhelming. Yet there's something hypnotic about how hard the movie tries despite its obvious limits. It wants to be a sprawling sci-fi epic, but instead, it comes across like a Saturday morning cartoon, stretched to feature length. That clash between ambition and execution is what makes it so watchable today. The Shape of Things to Come is living proof that sometimes aiming for the stars lands you squarely in the bargain bin, and somehow that makes it unforgettable. Zardoz, 1974. Few films embody so bad it's great, like Zardoz. If you've ever seen the infamous image of Sean Connery wearing a red diaper-like costume with thigh-high boots and a ponytail, then you already know this isn't your average sci-fi. Directed by John Boorman, Zardoz is a psychedelic fever dream about immortality, societal collapse, and one giant floating stone head that spits out rifles while booming the line, "The gun is good, the seed is bad." The plot tries to tackle weighty themes of overpopulation, eternal life, and class struggle, but the execution is pure madness. Connery plays Zed, a savage outsider who stumbles into the world of the Eternals, a community of immortals so bored with life that they spend their time in elaborate rituals and philosophical debates. It's meant to be profound. Instead, it's bewildering, often hilarious, and endlessly quotable. The costumes are outrageous. The sets resemble a 70s Seconds furniture catalog, and the dialogue veers between pseudo-intellectual rambling and unintentional comedy. Yet, somehow, Zardoz has endured as a cult favorite. Fans revel in its audacity, the sheer nerve of making a film this strange and expecting audiences to take it seriously. Critics at the time didn't know what to do with it, but modern audiences embrace it as camp brilliance. Zardoz is a reminder that cinema doesn't just fail in small ways, it sometimes fails so spectacularly that it creates an entirely new category of entertainment. You're the Hunter from the Future 1979. Dinosaurs, cavemen, and futuristic robots. What more could you ask for in a movie? You're the Hunter from the Future doesn't bother with logic. It just throws every pulp idea into the pot and stirs. Played by Italian actor Reb Brown, Yor is a muscle-bound hero wandering through a prehistoric landscape that suddenly veers into science fiction without warning. The first act is pure caveman adventure. Yor fights off dinosaurs that look like papier-mâché parade floats and rescues tribespeople from laughably staged perils. Just when you think you're watching a prehistoric fantasy, the movie veers into a secret underground world filled with laser-wielding androids and a mysterious high-tech civilization. The shift is so abrupt it feels like two different movies awkwardly glued together. The effects are cheap, the costumes even cheaper, and the acting stilted. But that's part of the fun. Reb Brown's Yor stares off into the distance with heroic determination, even when the plot around him makes absolutely no sense. The movie is full of howlers, from Yor swinging across cliffs on obvious ropes to robots that wobble like malfunctioning washing machines. Critics dismissed it as nonsense, but cult fans embraced its cheerful absurdity. Yor is the kind of movie you can't help but laugh with, even as it tries desperately to be serious. It's not polished, but it's pure camp treasure. Proof that sometimes throwing dinosaurs and robots into the same movie is enough to earn a spot in sci-fi oddity history. At the Earth's core 1976. If you've ever wanted to see Peter Cushing ride a drill-shaped machine into the center of the Earth, At the Earth's Core has you covered. Based on the Edgar Rice Burroughs novel, this film was part of a wave of pulp adventure adaptations in the 1970 seconds. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, the execution turned it into an unintentional comedy masterpiece. The plot is simple, pulp fun. Cushing and Doug McClure dig their way into a hidden world populated by primitive tribes and monsters. What could have been thrilling becomes laugh-out-loud absurd thanks to the monster costumes, which look like rejected theme park mascots. Men in rubber suits shuffle around pretending to be giant reptiles, flapping their wings as if they were attached with coat hangers. Peter Cushing, always a professional, gives it his all, speaking in rapid-fire delivery and treating every line with Shakespearean seriousness. His commitment to the madness is part of the charm. Doug McClure, meanwhile, plays the rugged hero role with a straight face, even as papier-mâché rocks tumble around him. What makes At the Earth's Core special is how much it feels like a high school play with a big studio budget. Everything is clunky, awkward, and strangely lovable. Critics had little patience for it, but fans of pulp silliness embraced it. Today, it's remembered as a so-bad-it's-great treasure. one that proves the 1,970 seconds weren't afraid to aim big and miss spectacularly. The incredible two-headed Transplant 1971, sometimes the title alone sells the movie, and the incredible two-headed Transplant doesn't disappoint. This low-budget oddity stars Bruce Dern as a mad scientist whose bright idea is to graft the head of a deranged killer onto the body of a simple-minded man. The result? A lurching, two-headed figure that stumbles around the countryside causing chaos. The effects are about as convincing as a Halloween costume. The two heads are clearly just an actor, with another actor's head awkwardly glued to his shoulder. Every shot looks like a prank staged in someone's garage, yet the movie insists on treating it with deadly seriousness. What makes it so entertaining is the bizarre mix of tones. One moment, the film tries to be a tense thriller, and the next, it slides into laugh-out-loud camp. Bruce Dern, always intense, commits fully, chewing the scenery with wild-eyed energy. But the script is so clumsy that his seriousness becomes unintentionally hilarious. Critics tore it apart, but cult audiences adored the ridiculousness. The incredible two-headed Transplant is the kind of movie where you spend more time laughing at the absurdity than following the plot. And in the world of so bad it's great cinema, that's exactly what gives it staying power. Queen of Blood, 1970. Queen of Blood is a movie stitched together from scraps, literally. Producer Roger Corman bought Soviet sci-fi footage, then spliced in new American scenes with actors like John Saxon and Basil Rathbone. The result is a patchwork film where grand cosmic visuals suddenly cut to obvious low-budget sets, creating one of the strangest sci-fi oddities of the decade. The plot revolves around rescuing a mysterious alien woman with green skin who later turns out to be a bloodthirsty predator. The Soviet footage provides sweeping shots of spacecraft and planetary landscapes, while the American inserts add awkward dialogue and stilted performances. The mashup is so uneven that it feels like two different movies awkwardly fused together. The alien queen herself is hypnotic, gliding silently across the screen with eerie intensity. But the special effects are clunky, and the mismatched footage constantly reminds viewers of the film's cut-and-paste origins. Despite its flaws, or because of them, Queen of Blood found a cult following. Fans love the surreal quality, where one moment looks majestic and the next looks like a community theater sketch. It's a bizarre time capsule of 1,970 seconds ingenuity, showing how filmmakers could recycle foreign films into new original stories for late-night television. Queen of Blood might not be seamless, but it proves that even cinematic leftovers can become cult classics. Tentacles, 1,977. When Jaws became a massive hit, every producer on Earth wanted their own giant creature terrorizes a town movie. Enter Tentacles, an Italian-American co-production that asked, why not swap the shark for an octopus? The result is one of the most bizarre creature features of the 1,970 seconds, starring an oddly dignified cast who seem deeply confused about what they signed up for. On paper, the film sounds terrifying. A monstrous octopus attacks a coastal community, leaving fear and chaos in its wake. In practice, the execution is hilariously clumsy. The killer octopus is shown through awkward close-ups of rubber tentacles and grainy underwater shots where it's never quite clear what's happening. The attacks are edited so strangely that they feel more like slapstick than suspense. What makes Tentacles unforgettable is its cast. John Huston, Shelley Winters, and Henry Fonda, yes, Oscar winners, deliver their lines with either total disinterest or baffling overcommitment. Houston looks like he'd rather be anywhere else. Winters turns every scene into melodrama, and Fonda pops in for a paycheck with the weary expression of a man silently questioning his career choices. Add to that a wacky electronic score, pacing that lurches between slow as molasses and completely bonkers, and you've got a movie that's impossible to take seriously. And yet, that's exactly why it's fun. Tentacles tries so hard to surf on Jaws' success, but ends up sinking into its own sea of camp. Today, it's celebrated by cult fans who treasure the absurdity of watching Oscar-winning legends face off against rubber tentacles. Tentacles proves that even the most shameless copycats can achieve a kind of greatness, not through quality, but through sheer, unforgettable oddness. So, there you have it. 12 sci-fi misfires from the 1,970 seconds that stumbled into cult glory. They were messy, awkward, and often downright embarrassing. Yet they've outlived plenty of polished blockbusters. Why? Because so bad it's great isn't failure, it's entertainment of a different kind. Which one of these oddities do you secretly love or love to laugh at? Drop your pick in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into cinematic curiosities.